everyone, and welcome back to the Strong Opinion Hibs podcast. Myself and Jack, as normal, and we're delighted to be joined by our returning guest, friend of the podcast, Andy Rogers. Andy, I'll start with you. How are you, mate?
I'm good, mate. How's yourselves?
I'm all right, aye. Nice to be back doing a podcast. Different to be doing it on a Tuesday, but I'm all good. And Jack, keep this brief because we're on time constraints. How are you?
I'm good. Obviously, I'm the only person of the Hibs going on a European tour this year, so it was good in Berlin. I had a great time, and it's good to meet people already, Kent, and have a great time at the football for the first time in 3 years. And obviously, Hertha got the win for me on Sunday as well, 2-0 against Stuttgart. So I'm a happy boy, recovering now from what was a interesting weekend, but it was brilliant.
No, it's good, mate. I'm glad you got away and glad you've seen Hertha win. So the first logical place to start, boys, is obviously Saturday. We're away to St Mirren, and in a random and non-Hibs-like fashion, we got the win, which wasn't the case for very long periods of time under our ex-manager. So it was nice to see David Gray get off to a winning start on his second stint as interim manager this season. So Andy, I'll come to you first, mate. When you seen the team come out about 2:00 on Saturday, were you happy to see that James Scott had kept his place in the starting 11?
Happy to see two strikers up there, to be honest, because neither Melkerson or James Scott are like lone players. It's just good to see the two players, and I thought it was good to see Henderson would have been in the number 10. So players playing in their own positions is a good thing.
Aye, and Jack, does that say a lot to you about a new manager that he switches it up pretty quickly after the old one's departed?
Yeah, I think we needed the two up top. As simple as I agree with what Andy said there. I was obviously at the Brandenburg Derby on Saturday, so I was too busy enjoying that to sort of register what was going on with the team. But I did get a brief look because the reception in the Karl-Liebknecht Stadium wasn't very good, and I had my eyes glued to the game. So I did look at it and thought, it was a fair enough team for me, and I'm glad this has got the two up top. But it does say a lot that maybe David Gray, it's early on in his coaching journey, but I think he's got some good ideas, and you can tell at some point in the future he is going to be a decent manager once he develops. But I think it was spot on for me, and it's what we basically had. It's the best we could have put out, I think, for me, or more or less the best we could have put out with all our injuries and everything like that. And plus, fair play to David. It was a big time for him to step up again, especially all the turmoil that's went on. So I think he picked the team pretty well.
Yeah, I was happy to see him go with a relatively similar team to the obviously the derby at Hampden. I thought it was good that James Scott kept his place in the team, and I think a wee bit of consistency for James Scott will be maybe help him towards the end of the season, because realistically it looks like probably 7's wrapped up now after winning on Saturday there, but to give him a wee bit of confidence, maybe even get a goal or two, hopefully, that would be nice for him to sort of finish his time. So the first half was really dull. I thought, watching the game at home, I couldn't make the trip out to Paisley, unfortunately. But Jack, having seen the highlights after the game, was there any real talking points that you could have thought of from the first half?
No, it's as simple as that. It's no. I watched a 0-0 6th division game on Thursday night between Empor Berlin and TSV Rudau in the Berlin League. It was more exciting than that first half. So that tells you all you need to know. But really, it was just as expected. Games against St Mirren are always quite tight whenever we play them. And I think first half was just two teams that you could tell just didn't want to lose. You know what I mean? Two teams that were set up not to lose. I think St Mirren maybe had slightly the better of it, but then again, they didn't really do anything exciting for me. But again, I only got the highlights, and you had a few half chances in there, and that was it really. Nothing much a note for me for what I seen in the highlights, which I sort of expected it. I was sitting thinking it was either going to be a score draw or a 0-0 draw. I didn't expect us to win. Yeah. And the first half was just as expected to go. A very sort of cagey sort of contest between two sides that don't really want to risk going into the playoffs, being dragged into that sort of battle. So, yeah.
And Andy, my real only main talking point from the first, or two actually, the first one is, what's your thoughts on Matt Macy's kicking? Because there was a few times in that first half that he kicked it right at the park.
Mate, we moaned about Rocky and his distribution, right? This guy's just as bad. I mean, I can well want our keepers to, save, come out for the ball and all that, but it's just a different game now. We want our goalkeepers to be able to distribute the ball and start attacks, and there's probably Windy smashed in Paisley now because of him.
Aye. I think I counted at least 3 times in the first half where he booted out the park, and you could see there was people on the pitch getting angry with him, and quite rightly so. Like, I thought Rocky's distribution was bad at times, and I was hoping that we'd get maybe a year or two before our keeper came a long way, just as bad distribution. But if it seems like, actually, come to think of it, both our keepers aren't great at distribution. Dabrowski's probably at fault to that as well. And Jack, I know you're a big Dabrowski fan, but when you look at both of them, they're both just as bad distribution wise, which does say a lot. Maybe with John Bush's goalkeeping coaching, that we've got a keeper who will boot it out of the park. But Jack, coming to you for the second talking point from the first half was obviously the unfortunate injury to Chris Cadden. So obviously he just pulls up, and Jack, do you think it was worth risking some of our bigger players like Cadden this late into the season? And obviously there was no real knock going into the game, but sort of, what does it say to you that there's an extra player injured?
I think it says to me, it just sort of sums up how this season's been for us. It's just been careering from one problem to another, and I think all 3 managers, I know David Gray's sort of coming into him, but Jack Ross, Maloney, and now David Gray as interim have had problems with injuries. It's been a running theme this season. Obviously Doidge had started off sort of where he picked up the last season, but then got injured and he's never been the same since. And he obviously had the COVID as well. And we've just had all those sorts of problems with fitness issues. I know when Jack Ross was in, that James Scott and Kevin Nisbet were getting a bit extra training. Jack Ross wasn't happy with their fitness. So I think, it just tells me that's how it's been our season in general. And I think, and on your point about Cads, I think you've just got to play the best that we've got, because St Mirren's not an easy place to go.
No.
So I think we just had to play the best we've got, because if we'd lost that game, there would have been a genuine risk of getting sucked into the playoffs, because we've got another difficult away game on Saturday.
Aye, that's true.
We've got to just play the best we've got at these difficult away games to get the points and be as clear for any threat of getting dragged into the playoffs as possible, which I don't think will happen now.
No.
You've got to win, but you've just got to have that safety net and have that plan, because football's one of those sports where it can change like that. So you just always prepare. It's better to be prepared than no prepared. So it's unfortunately Cad's got injured, but I think it was the right call to play him.
And Andy, do you think with these next 4 games, I'm jumping ahead of ourselves here because we've not dissected the second half yet, but obviously getting the win, do you think it's worth maybe, hopefully Cadden's injury is not a bad one, there's nothing been said yet, but do you think it's maybe worth no risking him at all for the rest of the season if he's pulled up injured?
A player pulling up injured like he did, Charlie, looks like maybe his hamstring or his calf that's pulled, and that can take 6 weeks.
Yeah,
straight off the back. It's a pity, because I think he's been our player of the season.
I agree.
I think he's been brilliant since he came in, full stop.
Yeah.
Forever gone forward. And that wing back was unforgiving.
Yeah.
But Ken, what? See, because we've got a big season coming next season, right? Harry Clark can play right wing back. Bring in Josh Doigall left wing back and just go with it. If he comes back and he's fit before the end of the season, stick him back in, but then he start him. Then he rush him back, because we've done that so many times with some of our players and it's not worked.
Especially with Livingston being that different pitch surface. Not that I'm making excuses for that at all, but you've seen players in the past, like I remember Jamie Murphy pulling up injured at Killie when he was playing for Rangers, and it's just like
I'm sure he done it with us against Livi.
I think you might be right, mate, but like just even that risk of that different pitch surface for an injury like the calf, or if it is a hamstring, like I wouldn't risk him. So obviously that's sort of the main talking points of the first half, and the second half I thought was just as boring, really. There was only really one main talking point from the second half, and it's the goal that ultimately won us the game.
Goal, by the way.
So Andy, I'll come to you first, mate. You and Henderson's first goal for Hibs. And it's nice to see him get that, because I think he's been unlucky the past couple of weeks, maybe even since he's come in. Like, he probably could have had 3 or 4 by now. He's missed a few chances at Easter Road and a few on the away game. So what did you think of the goal?
Lovely. I think Jack Hannock makes a massive mistake coming out that far. but it makes it so easy for you and just to chip the ball out on. There you go, 1-0. St Mirren that have they been scoring goals. We've looked at back, just put the wing backs back and just defending the 5 for the last 10-15 minutes. And 1-0's a good score. To get a clean sheet after the goals we've been letting in recently is good.
Jack, on that, like, obviously we've conceded a lot under Maloney, and there's David Gray, first game in charge, and it's one, and we keep a clean sheet. So, is there something perhaps to be said about that?
I mean, I'm not going to read between the lines too much on that, because I think, as Andy mentioned, St Mirren have just been struggling to score recently, and I think we had a relatively okay, from what I've seen in the highlights, defensive performance. There wasn't too much. There's maybe a few that we made a wee bit easy for St Mirren to get in behind, or there's maybe a few things we could have done a bit better. Going back to the Macy point, just not absolutely hoofing it out the stadium. But I think I'm not going to read between the lines too much. I think it was all based on individual efforts, and I think for me, going back to the goal, I thought it was just the composure for Henderson there was brilliant. It's easy. You just look at, not long after that, Campbell has a gilt-edged chance to make it 2-0, and he just blasts it over, which I think that he should be scoring that. I mean, I think every time.
I think it was unlucky for Campbell. I think it was on the instep that he blasts it. But you're right, Jack. He should be scoring that. And I'm starting to feel a wee bit sorry for Campbell. And I know that's a weird one for me to be saying, because I'm not his biggest fan at all. But I think with the injuries and that, he's sort of been forced into that you're playing it almost every week role, and it's a bit of a shame, because I think he's a player a bit like a Josh Doigor, that it could have went that way. That you've seen that the first 2 games when he come off the bench against Celtic, played against Rangers, he looked great, and I think he's just fallen victim to injuries, having to get that. But you're right, mate, he probably should have scored. But to sum it up, I think 1-0 is probably a fair result. Stephen Robinson said that St Mirren were the better team, but I don't know what he was watching. We had 75% possession in the first half. We dominated the second half, and ultimately goals win games. So I've no complaints.
Charlie, when you go by the stats though, they created more chances seemingly. And I don't know where that came about. Seeing the highlights, and didn't think they can created very much. I thought we defended pretty well.
Yeah, they had a few half chances during but it's nothing that worried Macy. I don't think Macy had many saves to make, and on the balance, they play 1-0. Either side was probably a fair reflection, and I'm just glad it was the Hibs that they got it, because it looks like now that's us sort of wrapped up 7th almost. There's no danger of us getting sort of flung into the mix of the relegation playoffs, which is great. I would hope that a club of Hibs' size and stature should never be down that end of the table, but you've seen it in the past that we have been. So, Jack, a question on the next 4 games before we look at Livingston. Do you think it's maybe time that we sort of bleed some of these younger players in, like a Josh O'Connor or a Ethan Laidlaw? I see, Andy, you're shaking your head, but Jack, what do you think on that? Do you think it is worth maybe giving some of these younger boys a chance, albeit they've still got the under-18s league to play and win, hopefully? So what sort of your thoughts on that in the next couple of weeks?
I just think we'll stick with what we've got. I think these lads, that you need time, and throwing them into games that don't really sort of mean anything in that. I think some people say, maybe it's better for young players. I think if you want to bleed young players in, you give them chances in cup games. I think that's what I've always noticed, is especially coming at it for a German football point of view. Any time I've seen Hertha bleed young players in, either it's a lad that's been really good and he'll come in for games that earlier on in the season, or he'll just come in, for example, Linus Gechter, who's a really good young defender for Hertha, he got brought in originally for cup games, and that's how you bleed them in. I think giving young players against very physical and very sort of defensive sides like Livingston, it's just not the way to go about it. I think you've got to give them a proper chance to settle in. I just don't think it's worth it at this point. Stick with what we've got, get to the end of the season, then we'll look at bringing the lads. And also, you've got the youth league that they've got to prepare for. They've got to focus on making them focus on first team games well. Or am I going to have to play then, or am I going to have to do that? It's no helpful to their development. I think you should just leave it. I see a lot of people, and I know why people are saying it. I get why people are saying it, but for me, it's just a case of they've got to be given the right amount of time in the right games, and I'd prefer it to be cup games where youth are brought in and sort of given that chance than because cup games are more competitive as well. These games really, after if we even get a draw against Livingston, they're more or less meaningless after that. If you think about it, it's just about getting the season done. So it's about giving the lads a proper. I think it's a bit insulting to the young lads that are getting brought in for games that in reality don't really mean much. So I think you've got to give them that proper bit of competitive edge, bleed them in at the right time, and bleed them in the right sort of place, like a cup competition for me. So I don't think it's worth it at this stage of the game.
Aye, that's fair, mate. Andy, I seen you shaking your head very in disagreement with what I was saying. So, what's your thoughts on the next couple of games? Do you think maybe bleed them in, or do you think just leave them out?
Having them on the bench isn't going to be a wrong thing, right? For the travelling aspect and the match preparation and knowing what goes on, but we want them to go and win the under-18s league. And I just think I harken back to the year we got relegated, right, and we brought in the likes of Sam Stanton, and it ruined them. I mean, I'm not saying we're not going to get relegated this season, but I just think get this squad to the summer, and we can use the Premier Sports Cup after the summer to bleed these young players on.
That's a good point, because we've got the group stages of that we could use them in.
And just gone to that, don't get me wrong, I think Josh O'Connor deserves a chance, so does Ethan Laidlaw.
Aye.
But I think it'd be unfair now, the way everything's gone, to throw them in.
I think I would. Josh O'Connor obviously got on when we were 3-1 down at Pittodrie the other week there, so I wouldn't be against maybe him getting a 10-minute cameo, or even
I wouldn't start them. They can come off the bench. I wouldn't start them.
I wouldn't start them. I think bringing Josh O'Connor off the bench, maybe even if it is on Saturday at Livingston, Kent, all going well, we're maybe 2-0 up at this point. Like, bring him on, like 15 minutes to go. Like, there's no real danger of us conceding two, hopefully. And it'll just, stranger things have happened, but it'll just give him that wee bit of experience. And I think bleeding them in for 15 minutes at a time there's nothing wrong with that. I think I've seen fans calling for them getting 45 minutes, and I'm a wee bit against that with the whole under-18s league, because that'll do them the world of confidence rather than getting 10 minutes against Aberdeen. Like, winning a league at their age will do them much better than getting 10 minutes of first-team football. So that sort of wraps us up with the St Mirren game. It was a pretty boring game, in all honesty, but happy that Hibs got the 3 points, and looks like that we're mathematically still in the relegation playoff mix. But I would be very surprised if we end up getting to that 10
stage. Points. Aye. 10 points between the gap between us and St Johnstone. So we've got a far superior goal difference.
So we'd need a big swing to get there. So that brings us nicely to Sunday's action for Hibs, Jack, and the Hibs ladies team were away to Partick Thistle at Petersall Park. Not a happy hunting ground for us this season, realistically. So Jack, the team news comes out, and it's and you put in the group chat, congratulations Partick on your 3 points. So you weren't obviously confident going into that game. So what was your thoughts when you see the team sheet?
In my defence, I'd been out with my mates before the Hertha game. I had a few Berliner Kindles before I'd said that. All right. So in my defence, I was under the influence. No, but I saw the team, and I thought there was a lot of changes, and I was sitting looking at it going, we've not been great against Partick in the past. We've changed the team up a lot. As much as I think Emily's a good keeper, she had a nightmare the last time she played against Partick at Petersall Parkway at the sort of start of the season. So I was looking at it going, oh dear. And I was a bit like worried that like you had Coyle on the bench and Penman on the bench, 2 players I think have, like, obviously Alexa's been great throughout the season, and Jenna's really sort of coming into her own now. So I was a bit worried seeing like how much the team had been changed up. But to Dean's credit, from what I've seen in the highlights, we were brilliant. I think that we were a compact unit. The sort of back line that we played really worked. Ellis Notley stepped up as captain. I was beforehand, I was like, maybe giving it to Hunter, who's more of a sort of shouty person on the she's more of a shouty person on the pitch. Maybe that would have been a more logical choice, but no, Ellis was fantastic, stepped up Emily stepped up as well, another clean sheet. I think she's had a real sort of breakout season when she has been called into the team. She's had the odd wobble here and there, but that's always going to happen with a young goalkeeper. You've got to remember, goalkeepers take a long time to develop. You know, I think Manuel Neuer, he didn't really hit his prime until he was in his sort of late 20s, early 30s, and Emily's only about 21, 22. So goalkeepers, it takes a long time for them to develop. So Emily's, I think, had a real breakout season when she has been called into the team. So for me, whilst originally I was a bit like, oh, it turned out that team was brilliant and we got what we needed to do. We really had to dig in and fight for that. But that's what that sort of system got. So I've got to say fair play to Dean. I think it was a bit of a masterstroke on his part, sort of playing that more sort of compact unit. And it really works. I think we've been missing that little bit, something special against Partick, and we finally found it, which is excellent.
In the first half, I watched the game before I went to work on Sunday afternoon. So I thought first half we blew them away. Really, we just came out the traps flying. We were first to every ball, and the 2 goals were cracking. Mickey's was great, and Shannon Leishman's as well, brilliant goals. So Jack, obviously 2-0 at half time. You must have been regretting your message at that point.
I was looking at it. I was on the S-Bahn to Westkreuz, which is where you need to switch over to go to the Olympia Stadium. And I was like, oh, what? It's 2-0. And I was like, brilliant. And then I went back, I was like, cracking goals. I mean, I think well worked as well. And Shannon Leishman, I've just got to say, she's been another player that's really sort of stepped up and stood out for me.
She's been really good.
This season, she's been fantastic. Really good player, and there's a big future ahead for Shannon Leishman. I think, you know, she started off as a player that just sort of got brought in, and I'd say she was a bit of a bit of a hatchet man. You'd say she sort of was in there just to sort of get stuck in and provide that bit of solidity at the back. But she's really sort of added more to her game this season. She's been outstanding. She deserved that goal. It was a fantastic Mickey. You know, what a signing! I think for me, Mickey's been signing of the season. It's as simple as that, and it's great to see her put pen to paper on a new deal as well. So we're very lucky to have her. I've said that before. You know, the sort of eye she has for the game and some of the goals she scores. You know, she's the one against she scored against Hearts in the 4-1 game at the Tony Macaroni as well. She's a fantastic player, Mickey. And I think I mentioned it before. We were very lucky to get off of Spartans because she could have easily went to a Celtic or a Rangers, but she came to us, which we were very lucky. Great goal for Mickey. 2 good goals. Second half, dug in, defended well, did what we needed to do, and got a huge 3 points off of a team that we've found really difficult to play against this season.
I agree, mate, and I think you've summed up the second half nicely. Nothing really happened in it. I think it was just a case of defend when we needed to, missed a few good chances, but ultimately the 3 points is the most important thing. And Jack, just last question on the women's game before we move on to the sort of the biggest talking point of the week, Hibs related, is do you think that win is wrapped 4th up for us?
Yeah, more or less for me. You know, I think you've got Aberdeen 2 games against Hamilton, obviously a postponed game for the international break at home, and then you've got Hamilton away, and then Glasgow City's looking at that. Aberdeen at home, I think we had that 1 loss against Aberdeen, but apart from that, we've been all right against them this season.
Yeah.
Hamilton are bottom of the league, so home and away you're expecting 3 points there out of both games. And then Glasgow City last game of the season doesn't really matter.
It's a meaningless game, isn't it?
It's a meaningless game. Glasgow City. It's just about going out and maybe try and get at least a draw, or maybe give some of the more fringe players like Ria and Rosie, give them a chance. It'd be great for Rosie's development, and it'd be great for Ria's development. So yeah, that's 4th for me, and I think that cements obviously 4th in the women's league is like 3rd in the men's. It's the best of the rest status, and I think we've been a bigger team in the past, but I think that's what we're settling into now. There's exciting times coming for the women's team, but yeah, I think overall it's been an all right season. There's been ups and there's been downs, but you can't complain with a 4th place finish, really.
No, you're true. You're right. So that's a good wee summary of the women's game there, Jack. So we'll move on to the main talking point, and I feel like this is probably the last time we can probably mention the new manager until he's announced, because I think everyone in Hibs Twitter is getting either bored or too excited. So I don't want to bore everyone who's listening by keeping on mentioning it, but obviously there's been talks in the paper, online, everywhere you look, that Roy Keane is declared interest for the Hibs job, which which is exciting. I think purely on name value, it's very exciting. You look at what he done in his career at Man United and everywhere else he went. He was a great player. And Andy, being a big Man U fan, purely on name value alone, this must excite you that someone of his stature wants to be a Hibs manager.
He wants to be Hibs manager, and the demands of excellence he put on his fellow players, and even as a manager, it is exciting. I've obviously got my reservations about it because of how he is as a personality, but if the players could actually handle what he's like, it could be exciting because some of the players do need an absolute boot up the backside.
Yeah.
But I just fear we're hiring a meme. We'd be hiring a meme.
Aye.
So I use that Roy Keane nonsense meme all the time.
Andy, what are some of the? We'll start with the negatives on Roy Keane. So, in your opinion, obviously you know more about him than I do because I'm a Liverpool fan, and I couldn't really tell you much about him as a person because when he's slating Man United, I love him because I'm a Liverpool fan. But sorry, what's your sort of take on him as a? Is he another Lennon type figure that will just scream at the players, or sort of start with the negatives anyway? What would you say are some of the negatives on Roy Keane?
I think he'd be like Lennon on steroids if he couldn't handle people not being up to a certain standard. But he would raise the standard. He would. I mean, you look at the teams he played in. He's won everything possible.
Yeah.
And when he went into Sunderland, they were bottom of the Championship and they got promoted that year. And again, he did spend an awful lot of money and he did bring loan players from Man United in that, but the name attracts players itself.
Yeah.
But the negatives are that he is old school. He is old school, shouting at players, getting in players' faces. But I think a lot of the players are snowflakes now, to coin a phrase I didn't like to use, but I think they didn't like being shouted at.
I think to coin the Lennon phrase, they're a bit of a boy band, aren't they?
Aye, they're back to being a boy band. I think I said that to you.
We've had many a conversation about it.
Aye. You know what? I could turn it a stroke of genius. He's not been interviewed for the Celtic job 3-4 times for nothing.
Yeah.
And he's rejected it before because of contracts or money or whatever. And bear in mind, he's a massive Celtic fan. I think he does know about the Scottish game. He's no daft.
He played up here as well, so he'll know roughly what he's getting himself into if he takes it.
I mean, it was 2006 he played up here because he retired after Celtic, but he knew what Hibs were about.
Yeah.
I mean, he speaks about Kevin Thompson and Scott Brown in his autobiography and how good they were and what it was like at Easter Road. So it's not that he's daft on it.
Yeah, I agree. And Jack, on the flip side, what would you say are some of the positives if we got Roy Keane as manager?
I mean, he's going to instill a good ethic and discipline into the squad. It's as simple as that. You know, he did that at Sunderland. That was a basket case, Sunderland, the players that couldn't be bothered and were just happy to slide down into League One. You know, I think that it was already accepted that was what was going to happen. And Roy Keane brought in, changed that ethic, brought in players that would fit in with the attitude he wanted, and he really got them into a sort of winning mentality. I think that's what, to me, some of the players at Hibs are lacking that. They're lacking that sort of winning mentality and they're lacking that sort of drive. Roy Keane would instill that. He would instill that drive, instill that winning. He's a winner. It's as simple as that. You look at all the trophies he won as a player, and having that sort of figure and having that sort of mentality really helped the players, because Lennon came in and he got the players into a new ethic and attitude. I mean, I think Roy Keane would do the same because he's got that pedigree. He's got that. Yeah, exactly. That's it. Exactly. That's it. I think another positive of Keane for me is, I think, you know, the guy doesn't lack passion. If he is passionate about something, he goes all in on it. You've seen that in his punditry. You've seen that when he was a player. He wore his heart on his sleeve every time he was out in the pitch, Roy Keane. And you need that as a manager. You need somebody who's going to get really sort of riled up. For me, Jack Ross and Maloney, as much as...
And Heckingbottom.
And Hecky as well. They were just too flat for me. You know, Neil Lennon, he had a bit of, you know, get up and go about him. He was up on the touchline shouting, and even Stubbsy was a bit of a character down on the touchline as well. You need that sort of character in the team. So I think that's it for Keenan. Also, as Andy mentioned there, he's got the contacts. He could bring players in. Can he?
That was something I'd said on Twitter earlier on in a conversation. I think Roy Keane as Hibs manager, if it goes through, would be very, very similar to the Rangers and Gerrard situation, where Gerrard brought in a type of player purely on his name alone that players wanted to play for, and I think it would be the same. Players would want to play for Roy Keane, I think, because of his name.
And Rodgers done the same at Celtic.
And I think Roy Keane might be looking at this as a stepping stone back into English football, and ultimately the Scottish game is a stepping stone. You see that with Gerrard, first sniff of English football and he's away. I've got my reservations on Roy Keane. I'm fully sold on him being Hibs manager, but I think a lot like yourself, Andy, his last two jobs, it's not ended well. But
30, it's not even over a 40% win percentage. But you've got to look at the actual teams he's gone to.
Yeah. Sunderland and Ipswich are hard jobs to go and get right.
Exactly.
So I think, and Calvin had mentioned some of his points. Obviously, he can't be on the podcast tonight, but he sent me and Jack some. And two of his negatives were, like yourself, Andy, he's a bit old school and he'd shout and it'd be like Lennon a wee bit. Secondly, and I don't know if you agree or disagree, but Calvin thinks it's more of a cash cow, that it's going to get people back into the ground. But I'm actually all right with that, because you see what it was like with Lennon. We had 18,000 most weeks. Like,
every week,
it's going to, and if the style of football's right, which that's yet to be determined based on if he gets it, that could only be a good thing if we're getting these big crowds back. So one other name that Calvin's pushing the agenda of is a Norwegian, and it's not Kjetil Knutsen, it's Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Andy, you must love the idea of that.
Oh.
And, to be honest, I quite like it as well. Like, a manager who his last job didn't work out so well for him at the end. It did at the start.
He was brilliant at the start.
What would, Jack, I'll come to you. What would your take be on Ole Gunnar Solskjaer being the Hibs manager?
Well, since we're going to say managers that have played and managed your second team, Pal Dardai's available from Hertha, so I'll throw him into the ring. I know. So's Axel Kruse. So
Mm-hmm.
I'd take Rafa Benitez at Hibs, like.
So you're just throwing it out there. Nah, I think
Calvin, listen, that guy who get football stopped, just no.
Aye, as Jack, would you be happy with Ole as Hibs manager?
I'd be over the moon. I think he's got some good ideas. You've seen that Molde, you've seen that Man United. I think he's got a good tactical brain, Solskjaer. I think you can see that. And again, he could attract some good players in, I think. And he has a good knowledge of the European game.
Yeah.
And you look at it, I think he'd get the best out of Melkerson, because Haaland, when he first got Haaland at Molde, Haaland was a young lad that was sort of a bit lost. He was a bit work shy, and Solskjaer took him, worked with him, worked sort of one-to-one, and I'm sorry, look at where Haaland is now. So I think Solskjaer had a big hand in that. It's as simple as that. And I think so Solskjaer would get the best out of Melson, even the best out of Hauge, I reckon, as well, because he'd be able to work those two. And I think Solskjaer would get on well with the players, and I think he'd again instill a good ethic. And like he did at Molde were sort of in the doldrums a bit when he first sort of came in, and he got them competing again. And I think for me, Solskjaer would be a good shout. Now, do I think it's going to happen? No. But I do think he'd be a good shout, and I think as much as it's a bit tongue in cheek, it would be great. And it said in the papers that Hibs are doing interviews in England, so you never do know. Like I said, if Hibs can do an interview, and I think it's Spandau that Pal Dardai stays in Berlin. Ron, get yourself over. It's only 1999 with Ryanair out on a Thursday, so Ron, get yourself over. I'd love to see Pal Dardai. So yeah, no, but I do think Ole would be a good shout. I don't think it's going to happen.
No, I can't see it happening either. Andy, obviously ex-Man U player, over two spells. Would you be happy with us going with Ole as the manager if it happened?
I've got to be honest. Obviously, he's a club legend at Man United. He'd done pretty well at Man United up until this year.
Aye.
I mean, you've had a right good laugh at me this year, being a Liverpool man. But I think if anyone watches his style of play for Mulder, I watched a lot of his Mulder team. I mean, he took Mulder to their first league.
Won the league
won the league back to
back.
back. Right, he went to Cardiff and then went back and won the league again. Done pretty well with Man United with what he got. I mean, come on, he bought Slabhead.
Aye.
And see if you watch the games where he first took charge of Man United, his interim role, and watch some of the football that was played. Don't get me wrong, with some of the best players you've got to have, the likes of Paul Pogba. But that's a long shot. I mean, he still lives. I'm pretty sure he still lives in Manchester at the moment because his daughter plays for United.
So only a couple of hours on the car or on the train for him too. So,
aye. I mean, I missed him when Mulder played Hibs. I was gutted because, but watching his Mulder team were quality. And you look at what he'd done with Haaland, and I just think, like Jack says about the likes of Melkerson, he'll know their players. He knows that market, and we could get an absolute couple of gems out of there.
Aye. So we've obviously done who we want as manager enough justice now, me and Jack. So Andy, I'll ask you the same question I've asked Calvin and Jack. Who's your dream appointment and who's your realistic appointment?
You've been on to me this. I don't know. I'm God honest, I've not got a clue, man. I wanted Jim Goodwin before Maloney. Obviously, you're not getting him out of thing. You know what? You said Ronnie Dyler to me, and I said not a chance. But some of the football he plays with the Man City, New York team, I think he's got, and the football he played at Celtic was quality. And you look at any of the other teams that he plays proper football, and that's what we want to see. But Ronnie Dyler would be a sort of dream appointment, but I don't know if we'll get him away from New York. Aye. Why would you leave New York to come to Edinburgh?
Aye.
I'm going to be honest, I think the realistic thing's probably going to be ending up with David Gray in charge.
As a shout.
I think if he impresses, and he clearly, I mean, he's not been put in charge twice for nothing.
Aye.
He's well thought of. He's done some of the clubs he's played for. I mean, he was at Hearts as a kid. He went down to Man United. He's played for Burton and that down south. He's well known down south as well.
Yeah.
So I think that's a bit underwhelming, but David Gray probably.
Aye, that's a good one. I don't think we mentioned David Gray as a realistic one,
no, we
but
didn't, actually.
I think that you might be right on that, mate. I think it's if there's aye, I was watching Down the Slope yesterday, and they said maybe give David Gray the development job for a year or two, then get him as manager. And I think it's more likely
that's not a bad shout.
That'll be the Martindale. Martindale's obviously, and look at what he's done for Livi.
Martindale's a bit less of a reputable character than David
That's
Gray.
Right enough. I mean, there was a lot going on apart from the, but we'll not talk about that.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. Can he confirm or deny?
Legal disclaimer, and I don't want to get kneecapped, so allegedly.
On the subject of David Martindale, we're playing his Showtime Livi Lions on Saturday. Jack, me and you are going. To be honest, mate, I can't be arsed. Like, I genuinely cannot be. Like, it's one of those games that means absolutely nothing for the league. Like, it's gonna be one of those. I think it's gonna be a boring game to watch. Like, but I'm going because I love Hibs, and I'm willing to spend my 25 quid to go and watch them. Like, and ultimately, it's an away day, isn't it? So it'll be good fun.
Not for me, but
not for you. It's a home game, but I can't really be bothered previewing the game because I think it's going to be a boring game. So I'll just get score predictions, then we'll move on to the quiz. So Andy, I'll come to you first. What's your score prediction? Who's scoring the goals?
1-0 Livi, Scott Pittman.
1-0 Livi. Negative way to start this off.
Realistic way to start this off.
Aye.
You'll find.
Jack, for yourself, mate.
I'm going to get more negative for a Brandenburg derby to this in the space of a week, and I'm going to say, you know what? I'm going to say 1-0 Hibs. James Scott to get his first goal for us. I've been saying this since he first signed, and I just want it to come off. I just want it to come off this time.
I'm going to say 2-2. I think 2-2 is probably another realistic shout. I think think Melkerson will score because Melkerson loves the AstroTurf, which I think people have forgotten that he in Norway played on Astro a lot of the time. So he'll maybe
I think just about every pitch in the league's Astro.
Well, I think he'll get one, and I think I'd like to see Johnny will get one. So we'll go those two, and I couldn't really care who scores for Livi, to be honest. So we'll wrap that part of the podcast up. Pretty exciting week, hopefully. With the new manager potentially getting announced soon. Hopefully, they're taking their time over it, but it would be nice by the next time we record to have some more clarity on who it's going to be. So we'll come over to you, Jack, for the quiz now, and I believe it's a wee manager special for the quiz this week.
Yep, 6 questions, all on Hibs managers, so testing Andy and Charlie's knowledge on Hibs managers. So just jump into question number 1, which is multiple choice. Which one of these Hibs legends has won silverware both as a Hibs player and a Hibs manager? Is it A, Eddie Turnbull, B, Mixu Patalainen, or C, Pat Stanton? Andy, I'll come to you first.
Eddie Turnbull.
Right, Charlie?
I think it's Turnbull as well, aye.
I can reveal you're both correct. Eddie Turnbull won the league as a player and the League Cup as a manager, as well as the Dryborough Cup as a manager as well. So, moving on to question number 2, which is also multiple choice, so it's 1-1. 1902 Cup winning manager Dan McMichael's last game in charge of Hibs was in 1919. He departed the club in a strange way. Did he A, die in office, B, get arrested, or C, disappear? Charlie, I'll come to you first.
These are all of them sound fake.
So Hibs.
I think it's B. He got arrested.
Andy.
He's ended up in the nick, isn't he?
I can reveal that you're both wrong. He died in office.
Did he actually?
He died of tuberculosis in office in 1919.
Wow.
He must have been in charge of Hibs for years then.
Yep. So he was in charge over 2 separate spells.
Wow.
The first one was from the 1890s until 1902, and then his second spell was from, I think, about 1905 up until he died. He's also the longest serving Hibs manager in history.
That's right.
Aye.
So, moving on to number 3. This number 3's nearest guess wins. So, Jock Stein is by win ratio the best full-time manager Hibs have had. What was his win ratio across his 50 games? Andy, I'll come to you first.
43%.
Charlie?
He's the best win percentage, you said?
Yeah, best by win ratio. What was his win ratio?
88%.
I can reveal. Well, Andy, what was your answer again?
43.
43. So I can reveal, if my maths is serving me well here, that Charlie's possible. I think Charlie's the closest because it's 62%. So no, Andy might be closer.
No, Andy's closer.
Andy's closer. Sorry, Andy, you get the point. It's 62% was Jock Stein's.
That's decent, by the way.
Win rate as manager.
I seen the percentages the other day there, by the way.
Well,
They're in the evening news thing.
2-1.
That's terrible for me.
Charlie, you might actually end up losing a quiz.
Again, I've not won one in ages.
Into a guess.
It's all right. It's all right.
So, moving on to the next quiz, it's still all to play for. It's 2-1 Andy, just to remind folk of the scores. So, number 4, Alan Stubbs' first game in charge of Hibs was at home against Livingston in 2014. What was the score? Come to you first, Charlie.
It was the game Oxley scored, wasn't it?
You're correct
I
on
think
that.
And he dinked to your mate DJ when he
Listen, I've got a story at the end of that, by the way.
I think it was 2-0 to Hibs. I wasn't at the game, but I remember. I think it was 2-0.
Andy?
2-0 Hibs.
Right, so I can reveal that you're actually both wrong.
Was it 3-1?
2-1 Hibs.
2-1.
Who scored for Livi?
2-1 Hibs, so it's still 2-1. And
who scored for Livi? I'm trying to think now. Who would have been that team? That was Fordyce, Gallagher, Lithgow. That wouldn't be hard to find out. I could take. I'll ask DJ.
So we'll move on to the next question, which is, again, this is a nearest guess wins, including David Gray. How many intern managers have Hibs had? I'll come to Andy first.
That's a tough one.
5.
Right, Charlie.
15.
I can reveal Charlie gets the point. He's the closest. It's 13 interim managers Hibs have had in our history. So there you go.
That's mental.
So it's 2-2. So this is the big one. This is the chance to take it. This is the chance to take all the glory. So again, this is another nearest guess wins. How many non-Scottish full-time managers have Hibs had? Come to you first, Charlie.
Non-Scottish.
Yeah.
How many have we had in total? Like manager-wise?
Oh, I've not got that.
That's fine. 17.
Right, Andy.
Non-Scottish.
Yeah.
Three.
You can reveal that Andy gets the point. He's the closest. It's 6 non-Scottish managers we've had. We've had Mixu Patalainen, Finnish, Neil Lennon, Republic of Ireland, Paul Eckenbottom, English, Pat Fenley, Republic of Ireland, Frank Sauzet, French, Tony Mowbray, who was obviously English. So there you go.
Terry Butcher as well.
Terry Butcher. So there you go.
Aye. Well, that's good. So Andy, you're the quiz winner. Well done. That's the good scoreline there.
I've won 3-2.
1-3-2. So that just well done to Andy coming on as a guest and showing Charlie up. So
it's not going well for me. But so that brings us to the end of the podcast, and probably our only episode this week because we've previewed the Livi game. And unless there's a massive announcement in terms of the new manager, we'll be back next Monday because there's no real. We've previewed Livi, so there's no real much on. Jack, are women playing this weekend?
Yes, I believe they are. I think it's one of the Hamilton games. Either that or we're playing Hamilton midweek. We're playing Hamilton anyway. Aye. It's either this weekend or midweek. I can't remember. We'll
be back on Monday next week. Probably just the usual suspects. Calvin will be back. So that brings us to end this one. And Andy, thanks for coming on, mate. Good to have you back on.
As always, man.
Well, until next time, come on the Hibs.